In the shadowed halls of Renaissance Florence, where power was currency and survival demanded cunning, Niccolò Machiavelli observed a fundamental truth that would echo through centuries: those who master the art of concealment master the art of power itself. The weak reveal everything, the strong reveal nothing. This principle, carved from years of political intrigue and personal betrayal, forms the cornerstone of what would become known as the 8 pillars of hidden strength. The first pillar demands absolute secrecy regarding your true intentions. In the courts of the Medici, Machiavelli witnessed how those who broadcast their ambitions became targets before they could achieve them. Consider the fate of Piero Soderini, whose transparent desire for reform made him predictable and, ultimately, powerless. The wise leader, Machiavelli noted, keeps his ultimate goals shrouded in mystery, allowing others to project their own interpretations while he moves deliberately toward his true objective. Your real intention should be like a flame behind thick glass, visible enough to provide warmth to those nearby, yet impossible to touch or extinguish from the outside. This requires developing what Machiavelli called the dual consciousness, the ability to speak one truth while harboring another, not from malice, but from necessity. The merchant who openly declares his intention to monopolize the grain market will face resistance from every quarter. The one who quietly acquires storage facilities, builds relationships with farmers, and controls distribution channels while speaking of fair competition will succeed where others fail. The second pillar concerns the concealment of your true capabilities. In the military campaigns Machiavelli witnessed, the generals who survived longest were those who never revealed their full strength until the moment of decisive action. Caesar understood this when he crossed the Rubicon. His enemies had consistently underestimated his resources and resolve because he had cultivated an image of measured restraint. The weak man boasts of his achievements and advertises his talents. The strong man allows his capabilities to be discovered gradually and, often too late, by his opponents. This principle extends beyond warfare into every arena of human interaction. The courtier who immediately displays his eloquence, connections, and intelligence becomes a marked man. Others will either seek to use him or eliminate him as competition. Better to let your abilities unfold naturally, revealing just enough competence to gain trust while keeping your deeper reserves hidden. Like an iceberg, show only the small portion necessary while keeping the vast majority of your power submerged beneath the surface. Your financial position forms the third pillar of concealment. Machiavelli observed how the Medici banking empire succeeded partly because they never flaunted their wealth while maintaining careful control over information about their true resources. Poverty and wealth both make men targets. The poor are ignored or exploited, while the obviously wealthy become prey to thieves, manipulators, and those seeking patronage. The wise individual cultivates an appearance of comfortable sufficiency while keeping the reality of their finances completely private. This means never discussing salary, never revealing debts or assets, and carefully managing the external signs of your financial state. The merchant who lives in a modest home while secretly owning vast properties maintains options that the man in the Golden Palace has already surrendered. Financial privacy is not about deception, it is about maintaining the freedom to act without others calculating their approach to you based on your perceived resources. The fourth pillar involves keeping your personal relationships and alliances hidden from public view. In Renaissance Italy, known alliances made men predictable and their friends vulnerable. Machiavelli understood that the moment your allies are identified, your enemies begin plotting against them. The smart leader maintains a public face of cordial relations with many while keeping his true inner circle invisible and protected. This does not mean isolation or betrayal of genuine friendship, but rather the wisdom of not advertising your emotional investments and dependencies. The man whose love for his family is public knowledge hands his enemies a weapon. The one who protects his inner circle through careful discretion maintains their safety and his own freedom of action. Your strongest relationships should be like underground rivers, vital to the landscape above, but flowing unseen beneath the surface. Part 2, The Architecture of Personal Transformation. The transition from weakness to strength begins with the brutal recognition that your current self contains elements that invite destruction. Machiavelli witnessed countless individuals who fell not because of external enemies, but because they harbored internal weaknesses that made them vulnerable to manipulation and defeat. The process of destroying these weak aspects of oneself is not about becoming ruthless or heartless, it is about becoming strategically intelligent and emotionally disciplined. The fifth pillar requires absolute secrecy about your past failures and vulnerabilities. Every man carries scars from previous defeats, embarrassments, and mistakes. The weak individual either broadcasts these failures as a plea for sympathy or attempts to overcompensate for them in obvious ways. The strong individual studies these failures privately, extracts every lesson, and then buries the emotional residue so deeply that it cannot be used against him. Machiavelli himself embodied this principle. After the fall of the Florentine Republic and his own imprisonment and torture, he could have spent his remaining years as a broken man, publicly lamenting his fate and advertising his victimization. Instead, he withdrew, analyzed what had led to his downfall, and emerged with insights that would influence political thought for centuries. His personal pain became private fuel for public wisdom. Your past failures are intelligence that should benefit only you. Share them selectively and strategically, if at all. The moment others understand exactly what broke you before, they possess a roadmap for breaking you again. This does not mean living in denial about your mistakes, quite the opposite. It means learning from them so thoroughly that they become sources of strength rather than ongoing vulnerabilities. The sixth pillar demands concealment of your deepest fears and insecurities. Fear is perhaps the most fundamental human emotion, and those who can identify what terrifies you hold power over you. Machiavelli observed how skilled manipulators would study their targets carefully, identifying the core fears that could be exploited to control behavior. The man afraid of poverty can be controlled with financial threats, the man afraid of social rejection can be controlled through isolation, the man afraid of physical harm can be controlled through intimidation. The process of strengthening yourself requires first identifying these fears honestly, then systematically reducing your vulnerability to them. This might mean developing multiple income streams to reduce financial fear, building genuine self-confidence to reduce social anxiety, or developing physical and mental toughness to reduce fear of confrontation. As you reduce these vulnerabilities, you naturally reduce the leverage others hold over you. But, even as you strengthen yourself, the fear itself should remain hidden. Let others believe you still possess the vulnerabilities they expect to find. This creates opportunities for you to appear more controllable than you actually are, giving you strategic advantages in negotiations and conflicts. The merchant who has secretly diversified his wealth but appears to worry about money can negotiate better terms with suppliers who believe they hold economic power over him. The seventh pillar concerns hiding your long-term plans and vision for your life. Machiavelli understood that revealed ambition creates opposition long before you have the power to overcome that opposition. If you intend to build a business empire, start a political movement, or achieve any significant long-term goal, speaking about it prematurely invites interference from those who would benefit from your failure. This principle requires patience and discipline that many find difficult to maintain. Humans naturally want to share their dreams and goals, seeking validation and support. But premature revelation of major plans provides competitors with intelligence they can use against you, while attracting the attention of those who might sabotage your efforts for their own benefit. Better to work quietly toward your objectives, revealing your intentions only when you have already secured the resources and position necessary to achieve them. The successful implementation of this principle requires what Machiavelli called the patience of stone, the ability to pursue long-term objectives without the immediate gratification of recognition or praise. Like a master architect who works for years on cathedral foundations that will not be visible until the structure is complete, you must find satisfaction in progress itself rather than in the applause of observers. Your long-term vision should guide every daily decision while remaining completely invisible to others. This creates a powerful advantage. While others react to immediate circumstances, you move consistently toward predetermined objectives that they cannot anticipate or counter until it is too late. The eighth and final pillar involves concealing the true sources of your knowledge and information. In an age where information is power, revealing your intelligence networks and learning processes provides others with the ability to cut off your advantages at their source. Machiavelli maintained correspondence with informants throughout Italy and beyond, but he was careful never to reveal these sources or to acknowledge the full scope of his information-gathering capabilities. This principle applies to both formal and informal intelligence. If you have developed relationships with key individuals who provide you with valuable information, protecting their identities protects your continued access to that information. If you have developed particular methods for learning about market conditions, political developments, or social trends, keeping these methods private preserves their effectiveness. The modern application of this principle extends to digital information gathering, professional networking, and educational pursuits. The individual who reveals all his sources and methods provides competitors with the roadmap for replicating his advantages. Better to let others wonder how you seem to anticipate market changes, understand complex situations, or navigate social dynamics with unusual skill. Part 3, The Transformation and Its Fruits. The systematic application of these 8 principles of concealment creates what Machiavelli recognized as a fundamental transformation in character. The individual who successfully hides his intentions, capabilities, resources, relationships, failures, fears, plans, and sources becomes nearly impossible for others to manipulate or destroy. This is not because he has become perfect or invulnerable, but because he has eliminated the external leverage points that others might use against him. This transformation requires destroying specific aspects of the weak self that most people never recognize as weaknesses. The need for constant validation must be destroyed and replaced with internal measures of progress and success. The compulsion to share every thought and feeling must be destroyed and replaced with strategic communication. The desire to appear impressive or important must be destroyed and replaced with the satisfaction of actual accomplishment. The fear of being misunderstood must be destroyed and replaced with comfort in allowing others to maintain their misconceptions. Each of these internal changes represents a small death, the death of a part of yourself that sought external validation or control. As these weak elements die, they are replaced by internal sources of strength and satisfaction that no external force can touch. This is the true meaning of Machiavelli's observation that the man who destroys his weak self cannot be destroyed by others. The process is not comfortable. There is a natural human tendency to want to be known, understood, and appreciated for your true qualities and achievements. Learning to find satisfaction in private accomplishment while maintaining public discretion requires developing new sources of fulfillment. The reward, however, is extraordinary freedom. When others cannot predict your actions because they do not know your true intentions, you operate with strategic surprise on your side. When they cannot manipulate you because they do not understand your real capabilities, fears, or dependencies, you maintain agency in every interaction. When they cannot sabotage your plans because they do not know what you are actually working toward, you can pursue ambitious goals without premature opposition. This freedom manifests in countless daily interactions. In negotiations, you hold advantages because others cannot accurately assess your position or alternatives. In conflicts, you maintain options because others cannot predict your responses or target your vulnerabilities. In opportunities, you can act quickly because you have not revealed your intentions or capabilities to competitors. The individual who has successfully implemented these principles often appears unremarkable to casual observation. This is intentional and advantageous. Like the master swordsman who appears relaxed until the moment of action, or the successful investor who appears to live modestly while accumulating vast wealth, true strength often disguises itself as ordinary competence. But this external modesty conceals extraordinary internal development. The person who has destroyed his weak self and learned to keep his true nature hidden has developed what Machiavelli called the iron core, an internal foundation so solid that external pressures cannot crack it. This does not mean becoming cold or calculating in human relationships, but rather becoming selective about vulnerability and strategic about revelation. In personal relationships, this transformation allows for deeper genuine connections because you choose to be vulnerable only with those who have earned that trust through demonstrated loyalty and discretion. Your openness becomes more valuable because it is rarer and more deliberately given. Your friendship means more because those who receive it know they are seeing aspects of you that others never witness. In professional contexts, this development provides enormous advantages in leadership, negotiation, and competitive situations. Teams respect leaders who demonstrate consistent strength without feeling the need to constantly prove themselves. Negotiation partners must work harder to understand your position, often revealing their own cards in the process. Competitors waste energy trying to anticipate moves you have not telegraphed. The ultimate fruit of this transformation is what Machiavelli observed in the most successful individuals of his era, a kind of practical invincibility. Not the fantasy invincibility of the warrior who cannot be wounded, but the real-world invincibility of the person who cannot be easily manipulated, predicted, or controlled by others. This individual may face setbacks and challenges like anyone else, but he meets them from a position of internal strength that external forces cannot shake. This strength manifests most clearly in moments of crisis. When others panic because their carefully constructed images are threatened, the person who has destroyed his weak self remains stable because his foundation does not depend on external validation. When others become paralyzed because their known weaknesses are being targeted, he adapts because his real vulnerabilities are protected. When others fail because their obvious plans are blocked, he succeeds because his true objectives were never revealed. The final test of this transformation comes not in moments of obvious conflict, but in the subtle pressures of daily life. The colleague who tries to manipulate you through false friendship discovers nothing useful to exploit. The competitor who attempts to sabotage your efforts cannot target what he cannot see. The superior who seeks to control you through fear finds no leverage points that produce the expected results. This is the practical meaning of Machiavelli's insight. The individual who systematically destroys the weak aspects of himself while maintaining careful concealment of his true nature creates a kind of personal fortress that external enemies cannot successfully assault. Not because he is perfect, but because he has eliminated the obvious entry points that weakness provides to those who would exploit it. The journey from weakness to this kind of strength requires patience, discipline, and the willingness to sacrifice the immediate gratification that comes from being known and appreciated for your qualities and achievements. But the reward is a form of personal sovereignty that few ever experience, the freedom to act from your own center rather than in reaction to the pressures and expectations of others. In the end, Machiavelli's guide is not about becoming secretive for its own sake, but about creating the conditions necessary for authentic strength to develop and flourish. The concealment is not the goal, it is the protective shell that allows the transformation to take place safely and completely. Once the weak self is truly destroyed and replaced with something stronger, the individual possesses a foundation that external forces cannot shake, regardless of what storms may come. This is the ultimate lesson hidden within Machiavelli's observations. True power comes not from what others can see of your strength, but from what they cannot touch of your essential self. The man who destroys his weak self and keeps his strong self hidden lives in a fortress of his own making, one that no external enemy can successfully breach because its defenses are internal, invisible, and therefore impervious to conventional assault.